Hello, and welcome back to Infamous Indie. I, of course, am your host, That Dead Girl, and if this is your first time joining me here, basically what I do is I sit down with you all and I share with you a true crime story from my home state of Indiana. I recently uploaded a video that I was supposed to have up as a kind of Valentine's Day special. Um, I'll be honest, I wasn't very happy with it. I still don't think it's my best work, but I did go back in and tweak it a little bit. Originally, I had only posted it to Facebook, but I just decided because you guys have had to wait so long that you should be at least able to see something. So I did upload the Drollinger Gang video, and it's about this Hollinsburg St. Valentine's Day massacre. And this week, I really wanted to try something a little different just because I came across this story on Reddit. And more often than not, during times I should be sleeping, getting ready, to go to work the next day, I often find myself sometimes going down that Reddit rabbit hole. So this was definitely one of those nights. And like I said, I came across this story and it just absolutely blew my mind. Um, Firstly, because I had never heard about this. And secondly, this Reddit post single handedly ended up causing a woman to kill her children and attempt to kill herself out of spite after this post or this Reddit thread went viral. So I am going to be trying something a little different today. I will be reading this Reddit post verbatim. Simply because I want you guys to just hear it for one, but I just want you to hear all of this in this man's words. So if I'm looking down, obviously I have my computer handy and I am going to be reading you guys the first part of the story anyway, because it is very integral to the rest of the story and the outcome at the end. So the Reddit post is entitled Relationship Advice. And he says, I'm a 30-year-old male having a hard time coping with my wife, who is a 29-year-old female, having cheated on me with our neighbor, who is 51. So right off the bat, this definitely caught my attention. I was like, okay, you got me. I'm in for the long haul. And just to add, the Reddit user's name at the time was Jason in Hell. So this is his telling of the things that are happening in his life right now. And he's basically just asking Reddit for advice as to what he should do. He says, to go back to the beginning, I had just taken on a new project and new responsibilities at work. I was working a lot of hours, at least 60 plus hours per week. And I was noticeably stressed. It was in May of 2015 that I noticed that she had added a password to her phone. That's definitely suspicious. When I confronted her about it, she told me it was because she was planning my Father's Day present and didn't want me to ruin the surprise. About a week later, she came to me and told me that she felt guilty keeping a big secret from me and told me that she was having our neighbor, a contractor, build a home office for me as my present. It struck me as odd, as in our 6 years together, she has never said she felt guilty about anything, and she always insists that she never regrets anything in her life. So time goes on, and her phone is still password protected. And things just don't feel right. I see her using her phone and smiling to herself more and more often, but when I ask her what she is doing, she says nothing and puts her phone away. Red flag, honey, red flag. So one morning, I wait for her to get in the shower and I grab her phone before it requires the password. I go through her messages and find that she is texting the neighbor, I am all covered in frosting. Would you like to come over and lick it off? There were no other messages to the neighbor, but I found out later that was because she had set up her phone to delete messages after a certain amount of time. I felt comfortable with it. I felt uncomfortable with it. but I knew she had a perverted sense of humor and I thought she would never do anything to hurt me. More time goes by, and the neighbor is spending more and more time at our house, but the office is being completed slower and slower. I can't help but worry that something isn't right, so I start checking her location using Google Timeline. It was at this point that I realized that there are large gaps in her GPS history because she was turning off her phone's GPS. Fast forward to July, and at this point, the paranoia is driving me nuts. So I tell her that I need to install new antivirus on her phone. While she has it unlocked for me, I install anti-theft software so I can remotely turn the GPS back on and set up AT&T message backup and restore so I can read all of her text messages from that point on my computer. It's a very smart man. The next day, my mother asks to spend some time with my two kids, so my wife drops them off with her and has the day all to herself. I watch my wife's activity from work as she spends the day trying to meet up with a neighbor but is unsuccessful because he is busy at a job site. That night, we get the kids back from my mom's house and we go out to dinner with the neighbor, his girlfriend, and his son. Awkward. My wife and his girlfriend are just having a good time drinking, laughing, and joking around. His girlfriend mentions that she would like to go see Magic Mike XXL. I say it's a good idea. I'll watch the kids so my wife and her can go. Nice guy. So my wife and her go, and the neighbor and I go back to my house so the kids can play video games together. Oh, the kids are back in my son's room playing games, and the neighbor is sitting across from me on the other couch. It is at this point that my wife starts texting him. She is describing sex acts she would like to perform with him, and he is reciprocating. She tells him to check his Snapchat, and at the same time, I get a Snapchat from her too, and it is her fingering herself in a bathroom stall. They keep talking, trying to figure out when they can meet up and have sex. They decide on Monday morning after I go to work. Wow. Just wow. Anyway, he says, so in my head, I had already planned to pretend to leave and circle back to catch them. But when they tell each other that they love each other and it is all I can do to not leap off the couch and knock him the fuck out. But I contain myself and continue reading the conversation. He then goes on to tell her, "You're my girl now." To which she replies, "Always have been," ending with him writing, "and always will be." My wife and the neighbor's girlfriend return from the movie and I ask them politely to sit down. I then ask the kids to stay in my son's room and shut the door. I return to the living room and confront my wife and my neighbor. Good for you, boy. Good for you. I say, "So you two love each other, huh?" My wife goes into full-blown denial mode, and the neighbor's girlfriend starts smacking him. I ask my wife if she has been texting him, and she lies and says no. So I show her the text messages. She admits to it, but says it was the first time it had gone that far. I ask my wife if she has sent him pictures, and she says no. So I show her the picture, and she admits it, but says it was the first time. I ask her if she is having sex with him, and she says no. Because I didn't wait to catch them having sex together, I didn't have evidence to prove her wrong, so that one stayed unresolved. Whew. I tell her that I am leaving her. And then she tells me that she will make sure I never see my kids again if I do. She planned on using the fact that I had attempted suicide in high school to prove me unfit to have the children. She continues to say that it was my fault for being so busy with work and stressed out that she just wanted someone that she could talk to. Ugh. Then she gives me an ultimatum to decide what I'm going to do, or she will decide for me. The neighbor's girlfriend starts defending the two of them, saying that it couldn't have been serious if they weren't having sex, and that my wife and I are too perfect together to let this break us up. The neighbors go home, and my wife and I argue for the rest of the night about what we are going to do. We go to bed separately, having not resolved anything. We keep going back and forth on the subject all weekend and finally settle on we were going to separate temporarily while we figure out what we want. I was going to stay in the house. She was going to take the kids and go to her mother's house. That Monday, I go back to work and I get a text from her in the middle of a meeting with my bosses stating that she had explained things to our kids, but that they were upset and I need to explain it to them also. So I get home from work to find my kids crying. She had told them that mommy had to move out because dad was mad at her. When my son wanted to stay with me, she told him that he couldn't. My son put it together that if mommy has to move out because I'm mad at her, he must move out, then I must have been mad at him too. My daughter was crying because my son was. I don't think she was even old enough to understand what was happening. It was at that moment I realized she was going to drag the kids through hell if I left her, so I swallowed my feelings and I begged her to stay. She agreed, and I insisted that I apologize to our neighbors since we were still going to need to hang out with them because our sons are good friends. I hate this, but I do it anyway. We still hang out with them from time to time, and they come to our various birthday and holiday parties, but I do anything for my kids, and I behave civil every single time. Things died down for a while. I still think about it constantly. I worry how I can keep from making her so unhappy that she cheats on me again. Then, almost a year from the original incident around Father's Day, again, she sent him pictures again. And she claims it was an accident, that she meant to send them to me instead. I don't fully believe her, but I move on anyway. Things have been quiet on that front for about 4 months now, but I still think about it constantly. This is going to sound stupid, but I feel like I have a part of my brain that I can't shut off, that it's always thinking. I used to use that to solve programming problems, and it made me very good at my job. But ever since this incident, the only thing I think about is her and him, and if I did the right thing. My job performance has suffered, and I feel like I haven't gotten sleep in months. I'm afraid that after this much time and the fact that I begged her back, that to say that I want a divorce now would only make her more vindictive towards my children and I. I just feel like I have put myself so deep in a hole that I can never get back out. I haven't really talked to anyone about this. I didn't want to talk to my mom about it because I felt she would treat my wife differently, and I didn't need the two of them fighting any more than they already do. I tried talking to one friend about it, but his advice was to put my trust in God, but that was not much solace for me as I am an atheist, And so I have no clue what to do with my feelings or how to move on from this. So all of these Redditors at this point, understandably so, gave the advice to divorce this bitch. And he seems to, actually go on to take their advice. So at this point, like I said, it seems like this Jason and Hill person has taken the advice of all of these Redditors, and he actually gives an update. So he says, I'm taking your advice. That's the title of this post. Instead of trying to fix something she doesn't want to fix, she has refused counseling several times in the past before this has ever even happened. I am going to get myself and my kids out. I meet with an attorney next week. Thank you everyone for helping me see how far I had my head up my ass. So somehow, some way, this woman, Brandi Worley, this was his wife. Somehow she kind of found out about the Reddit post. I mean, it went pretty viral. And she also obviously found out about his plans to divorce her and gain custody of their children. And when making this decision for himself, I don't think he ever envisioned the terrible things that were about to happen. Because just one day after Jason filed for divorce from Brandi, Brandi Worley would end up killing their 7-year-old son Tyler, as well as their 3-year-old daughter Charlie. So I know that was a pretty long read, but I did want to read the Reddit post accurately, because it is a very important part of the story. This is basically the beginning of our timeline of events. In part two of this story, I will be getting more into, how it all went down. Thank you for hanging out with me this week. I've definitely missed you guys, and I'm so, so sorry. I can't apologize enough for kind of just taking a little bit of a break, but it was very much needed. I'm so much more motivated now, and I've just been writing a lot and researching a lot, and I have a lot of things that I'm excited to share with you guys. In the coming weeks, be on the lookout for part 2 of this story, as well as part 1 of the Larry Eiler story. Thank you to all of you who tune in, no matter how sporadic or spread out my content may be. I appreciate your support. And if this is your first time watching, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share my content with all of your spooky friends. And as always, don't forget to stay spooky, keep it creepy, and watch your back out there because it's a crazy fucking world.